Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of September 9th. Before we get started, we must shout out the Patreon supporters. We have Mario Casillas, RetPallyRocks, Nick Rada, Peter Burnham, and RetSpecOps. Thank you guys so much for that support. Very truthfully appreciated. Now let's head in and talk about what's going on this week in World of Warcraft, in the game. So, one weird thing this week that I can't quite figure out is the Eastern Kingdom's Cup comes to an end. So this is the dragon riding thing you could do. Now, previously, I believe like the other cups just followed it directly, but I don't see it anywhere on the calendar. So we might be done with these little cups for a while until whenever the Commodore one hits again. I would have thought they would have tried to front load these into the patch, but who knows? So there is no cup this week, at least according to the calendar. We do have the Delve bonus event going on this week. Delve bonus event is one that's usually worth doing. They've made it fairly lucrative to get people to do more delves. Delves has been a hit piece of content for them, and a lot of it has to do with making sure the rewards for it are very good. We also have PvP Brawl Classic Ashran this week going on as well, and we have the Darkmoon Fair going on most of the week, where you can go do pets, prizes, achievements, mounts, everything that there is to do in the Darkmoon Fair. As always, I say it every week, but there's new listeners, there's new viewers, listeners, whatever. And, my hope is that they do refurbish Darkmoon Fair in Midnight, this next expansion, and that we can have a little bit better evergreen content. It's still decent content, but it's made for 2010 or whatever. It's made for many years ago. It's not made for now. So hopefully it can get revamped and refurbished to be a little bit better. This week, we do have a couple changes coming with the reset that are kind of notable, worth pointing out. We have a little bit of class tuning coming out. Not a ton, but we do have a little bit of class tuning. Notable, I think the notable ones are Beast Mastery Hunter and Boomkins are getting buffed. For Beast Mastery Hunters, I believe they were already decently strong. So I think that this makes them even stronger from what I was reading about it, at least. And possibly like very strong with a buff. So seemingly a class that didn't really need buffed, getting buffed, but I don't care. More power to them, I guess, right? That's notable if you do play a hunter. Boomkins are finally getting buffed. They kind of had the Ret Paladin treatment as well, but then the Ret Paladins, made a big fuss about it, shut down the Discord, all that stuff, right? We cover all that stuff here, of course, on my channel. And so Ret Paladin got the 5% buff. I believe Boomkins are getting the same 5% buff that Ret Paladin got to all damage. So we'll see that coming for them. We also have some notable dungeon tuning to Arakara and Halls of Atonement, making those dungeons slightly easier. Those are two of the harder dungeons in this pool, the way they're tuned currently, Halls and Arakara. So hopefully those runs will be a little bit easier. I actually read an article specifically about how people are really failing Arakara keys at a fairly high rate. And I understand that last boss is really rough for healers, and it's like super mechanic intensive because you have to keep doing a one-shot mechanic. And if you don't have something for it, or your spec doesn't have or class doesn't have a way to negate that suck in, that can be really rough. If you're not paying attention to literally every time, you need to make sure you're safe every single time. So that's an issue, and the first boss can just be really annoying. It's not hard, but it definitely can be annoying. So I see why there is some failure in those keys, but I don't. I'd have to look at the actual changes coming for Arakara. I don't know if they are boss related, but just making the key easier in general, allowing you more wiggle room, should help that dungeon and its completion rate going forward, hopefully. So other than that, there isn't a ton of stuff going on directly. Again, I mentioned it last week, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do get the alpha soon, based on what they said. Now, I think some people are expecting it a little bit earlier than what it might be, so it might not be this month, but it could. But it very well could be next month. And then I would not be surprised to see the beta maybe around Christmas, maybe a little after Christmas, somewhere around there, though. That would not surprise me at all for that, and of course I will be very much focused on that when that happens. Looking to the future of Ret, the future of secret finding, the future of the World of Warcraft in general, and looking forward to that, obviously. Other than that, for me personally, I have been just plugging away at Mythic Plus very slowly. I've also been playing a little bit of Classic hardcore WoW as well. I never made a character to 60 originally. My character died. If you followed the channel back then, my character died at level 58. So I never quite made it to 60 on hardcore. So I'm just very slowly leveling a mage. I'm level 49. I have been working on that a little bit. I didn't feel like grinding my keys too much this week. I did do a few 12s. I'm just slowly. I'm gonna at least get to 3,000. We'll see how far past 3,000 that I go. You know, but since that's my main focus of this tier, I'm trying to do a little bit more than I normally would, because normally I would just get to 3,000 and sit there, but I'm trying to do a little bit more than I normally would, since that's my main focus this year. And you know, see where I can get. And if I'm close to the top 1,000 paladins, then maybe I'll push for that. If I'm close to the top 500 paladins, maybe I'll push for that. You know, just for my own little, you know, self reward or whatever, gratitude, something like that. Perhaps I would do that. But other than that, there's really, unfortunately, not too much to talk about this week. Yeah, they're just looking for more news coming out from the WoW team, and you know, stuff like that. There was some drama news about Classic WoW and Turtle WoW and stuff that's still going on, but really nothing huge is going on right now. MDI and AWC signups are up, so those will be happening here at some point. Whether that's going to be next month, November, I'm not sure at this point, but it's going to be happening at some point. I always enjoy those myself. So those signups are active. I know there were some people wondering where those were. So that's the only other thing notable that I can think that I was reading about in WoW right now. So we will see where we go, where we get more information, more news on Midnight, more news on this patch, etc. More news on the 0.5 patch, and you know, other things like that. So that's it for this one, though, guys. A little bit short. As always, I do ask you to please sub to the channel because that helps me out more than anything else. If you're already a sub, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.